Mr. Bernanke, your testimony, earlier in your testimony, you've testified that as the mortgage-backed securities or agency-backed securities mature and are being paid off, you are not reinvesting in similar. But as the treasuries are rolling off, you are reinvesting those. And you're reinvesting them in similar maturities. What would you say the weighted average maturity of your security portfolio is?
The treasuries are about 7 years weighted average maturity, and the agency debt, I'm not precisely sure, but I think it's around 4 years.
So under this current policy, unless you make a decision to do otherwise, within 4 years the agency debt will have rolled off the books.
Well, not entirely, because it's distributed over a range. Some is shorter, some is longer.
Okay.
But there would be substantial reductions over the next 4 or 5 years, even if we don't sell anything.
And so with interest rates at historical lows, and I think last week was it the 2-year or the 5-year hit its lowest rate ever. But almost every day, some of the securities are hitting their lowest rate ever, and there's a tremendous amount of demand for those treasuries. What would be the effect of the Federal Reserve not replacing the treasuries that are rolling off the books?
It would probably have a modest effect in terms of increasing the yields on treasuries.
So it would have the effect of raising the yields on treasuries because you're applying some buying pressure in
Exactly.
the market.
Exactly.
And is that at this time that's an acceptable policy to put any pressure whatsoever on the?
We are, as we've discussed, we believe that the economy continues to need monetary policy support, and this is one measure that we have to keep overall rates low and to provide support for the recovery. In addition, the amount of treasuries that we currently hold is more or less identical to what we held before the crisis. And so there's no real need in terms of the long-term normalization of our portfolio to reduce that significantly.
When you began this policy, the 10-year rate was near 4 or has been above 4. It's now, I think yesterday it got down to 2.86. Is that the range, generally speaking, where you feel like the Fed needs to be in those instruments?
Well, we don't have a target interest rate, and much of what's happened to the yield is not really related to the Fed, or at least not directly to our purchases. It's related to things like expectations of inflation, of growth, and the demand for treasuries as a safe haven, which has been increased with the European crisis and the like. So there are a lot of factors affecting the yield. We don't have a particular target, but all else equal, a lower yield tends to be somewhat more supportive of recovery.
And one last question. On page 7, and I think what was reported widely yesterday in the newspapers out of this entire paper was the phrase that we also recognize that the economic outlook remains unusually uncertain. Is there some distinction in the word unusually versus the last report that you gave?
I don't know. As I report in my testimony, we have a quarterly survey of our members of the committee of the FOMC, asking them for their forecast, but also asking them whether they think the amount of uncertainty in their forecast is higher or lower than usual. And a majority of the respondents said that they thought that uncertainty was higher than usual, and I was responding to that observation. It certainly is an unusual time and many factors at work, including factors in financial markets, and so forecasting is perhaps a bit more difficult than it would be under average circumstances.
Thank you very much.